If you've got ADHD, you know this feeling, right? That incredible, unstoppable surge of momentum, followed by a really hard crash into burnout. Well, today we're going to dig into why that happens and, more importantly, how you can swap that exhausting cycle for a much more sustainable rhythm.
This quote just nails it, doesn't it? For a brain that's wired for new and exciting things, that feeling of being totally in the zone, of having real momentum, it's just incredibly rewarding. It's a dopamine rush that makes you feel focused, creative, and like you can do literally anything.
All right, here's a quick look at our game plan. We're going to talk about the momentum trap, peek at the science of burnout, introduce a new sustainable flow model, cover 5 systems for building rhythm, and then wrap up with how to actually put it into practice.
Okay, so let's start with what we're calling the momentum trap. We're going to unpack why that amazing feeling of being on a roll can be such a powerful asset, but also, if we're not careful, why it can be a setup for a major fall. You know, when that momentum hits, it's like everything just clicks. A little idea sparks, a goal gets crystal clear, and suddenly, bam, you're riding this incredible wave of creativity, focus, and energy. It feels absolutely amazing, but man, it's an intense burn. And here's the trap. The very same brain chemistry that lets you soar is what leads to the crash. Without a system for recovery, that beautiful, vibrant, creative energy just inevitably turns into brain fog, apathy, and a total shutdown. But why? Why does this keep happening? What is actually going on in our brains? In this next part, we're going to get into the science of burnout to really understand the chemistry behind this whole up and down cycle. Okay, so it all kicks off with what we can call the dopamine launch. Your brain gives you this great shot of dopamine when a task is new, interesting, or urgent. And that's what kicks you into that state of hyperfocus. But you gotta think of it like rocket fuel. It gives you a really powerful launch, but you burn through it incredibly fast. So what happens next? You ignore that feeling of fatigue, you're trying to just power through, and your body starts pumping out the stress hormone, cortisol. It's trying to help, to keep you going, but it has this really nasty side effect. It basically puts up a wall around your dopamine receptors. So even if you finish the thing, you hit your goal, your brain can't get that reward signal. And that's exactly why success can feel so empty after burnout. This right here is such a critical reframe. Burnout is not a moral failing. It's not you being lazy. It is a biological fact. It's your nervous system pretty much screaming, hey, I've been in go mode for way too long and I have to shut down to recover. Exactly. So you didn't lose your motivation. Your system just hit its limit and went into overload. It's like a circuit breaker flipping in your house. It's a safety mechanism, not a flaw in your character. So now that we get the science, we can start building a much better approach. Instead of that linear path of work, 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 crash, we can shift to a sustainable flow model. And it's all about embracing a more cyclical way of getting things done. The main idea here is super simple, but kind of revolutionary. Real sustainable momentum isn't just about flipping the on switch. It's an equation. And in this equation, activation and recovery are equally important. So many of us focus only on the first part and completely forget the second. I love this analogy. Think about it like interval training for your brain. You wouldn't just go to the gym and sprint for an hour straight, right? Of course not. You'd alternate intense bursts with periods of recovery. We have to start applying that exact same logic to our mental energy. Focused work followed by an intentional reset. Okay, theory is great, but how do we actually do this? Let's get really practical. Here are 5 systems you can start using right now to move from that burnout cycle to a sustainable rhythm. System number 1, start with micro wins. You know that feeling of staring at a huge project and you just freeze? The trick is to just ignore the mountain. Focus on the very first tiniest step. Write 1 paragraph, send 1 email, clean out 1 drawer. Finishing that one tiny thing gives your brain a little hit of dopamine, and that creates the motivation for the next small step. Second, and this is a game changer, stack your energy, not your tasks. We're all taught to plan our day by the clock, right? But what if you planned it based on your energy levels? When do you feel most creative and sharp? That's your time for the deep, hard stuff. When do you hit that afternoon slump? Perfect time for simple, low-effort things like tidying your desk or running errands. Now, this next one is going to feel wrong at first, but trust me, it is so powerful. End before you're empty.
The temptation is to ride that momentum wave until it crashes on the shore. Instead, try stopping while you still have some gas left in the tank. This creates something called a dopamine cliffhanger. It leaves your brain wanting more, which makes it a million times easier to pick that task back up later. Number 4, you have to schedule recovery like it's a task. Seriously, if it's not on your calendar, it's not going to happen. Treat these moments of rest like they're non-negotiable appointments with yourself. A 5-minute stretch, a moment of total quiet, putting on your favorite song. This isn't slacking off, it's essential maintenance for your brain. And that leads to this huge mindset shift. Rest is not a reward you get for being productive. It is the very thing that regulates your system so that you can be productive. It's what recharges your battery for focus, for planning, for managing your emotions, for everything. And finally, all of this comes together in System 5, which is all about redefining what productivity even means. It is not about constant output, it's about ditching that exhausting feast or famine cycle for a new, simple, sustainable rhythm. Create, then recover, and then repeat. All right, let's bring this all home. How can you actually put this into practice like today and start building your own system for flow? The very first step is just a little self-awareness. Which of these burnout patterns really rings a bell for you? Do you burn out after a big productive streak? Do you hyper-focus for way too long and then just hit a wall? Or are you always pushing through fatigue when you know you should stop? Just pick the one that sounds the most like you. Okay, once you have your pattern, here's the key. Don't try to fix everything at once. Just choose one of these actions to try. Just one. Will you break one task down into a tiny micro-win? Or end just one work session a little early? Or maybe add one intentional 5-minute reset to your day. Just pick one. And that really brings us to the most important takeaway of all. Sustainable flow when you have ADHD, it's not about speed. It's not about doing more or going faster. It is all about rhythm. It's about creating a pattern of work and rest that sustains you, a pattern that you can come back to again and again and again.